Now, there was another game that I wanted to bring your guys' attention. Those are the two big ones. Ole Miss, Tulane, Texas, Alabama. But I always like to talk about games that maybe I don't even want to say under the radar, but games that just completely like not even remotely getting any attention unless maybe you're the fan of these particular schools, or maybe your favorite team is in the same conference as one of the two teams that are featured in this matchup. That type of thing, right? And it's the UTEP versus Northwestern game. Now you're going to see the score of this UTEP and Northwestern game, and you're thinking to yourself, Jake, what are we doing here? Why are we talking about UTEP and Northwestern? Well, let me tell you. It may not seem very surprising on the surface, Northwestern beating a small group of 5 school by 30 points. It doesn't seem that surprising on the surface. We want to talk about the disrespect to Northwestern football, and I've noted there's a lot of negative energy around this program. There's a lot of negative energy around Northwestern football because of what happened to their longtime coach, because of the hazing incidents that were not acceptable to that Northwestern administration. So they're starting their new coaching search now. There's going to be an interim in there for the time being. But we want to talk about some disrespect. So when the lines open up, this was on FanDuel. This is what I primarily use for college football betting purposes. UTEP was actually the favorite to win. UTEP was a 1.5 point. It's not a big favorite, but they were a 1.5 point favorite over Northwestern. Like, oh, how the mighty have fallen. Like, listen, I get it. Northwestern looked terrible in their opener against Rutgers. They did not look good. They did not score until the closing moments of that game. But UTEP lost to a team that's making a transition up to the FBS level. They lost to Jackson State. They didn't look great against Incarnate Wood, but they won that game. But I mean, this is not even the best team in Conference USA. And I think that's the worst conference in FBS football right now. And you decide initially to favor UTEP over Northwestern. Now, just why? I wish I had like inside knowledge of the folks that decide where the lines are set up and how those decisions are made. I got some questions. I certainly have some questions for sure, right? Eventually, by the time the game did kick off, we did have some common sense into the picture. Northwestern did eventually be favored, still not by much, half a point. They were a half-point favorite by the time this game kicked off initially, according to FanDuel, by the way. And it was close. It was close in the beginning. It was tied going into half, but then Northwestern came out in the second half, and they ended up with 31 unanswered points. And that's how they won by 31. But a 30-point win is a 30-point win, especially if the game is initially supposed to be a toss-up. It was initially supposed to be a toss-up in the beginning. But how did they get it done? How did Northwestern get it done? Turnovers, turnovers, turnovers. That is the $1 million key in this one, ladies and gentlemen. It's all about the turnovers. Northwestern did not turn the ball over at all in the game. They did a much better job of taking care of the ball than what they did against Rutgers. That's what really killed them in that game. Ultimately, they weren't able to come back after that. No turnovers for Northwestern. They forced 3 turnovers on the other end on UTEP. 2 of which were by their starter, Galvin Hardestin. He's the starting quarterback for UTEP. He was not great. He hasn't been great in FBS games. 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in 2 such games. He was a little bit more efficient, though, but a very average group of 5 quarterback. Average. And that's not even to say that Northwestern's offense looked that great either. Ben Bryant, 11 for 17, 116 yards, 1 passing touchdown. We took care of the ball, and, he has college football experience playing at Cincinnati, Eastern Michigan, and now at Northwestern. But he didn't have those eye-popping stats, right? There was nothing eye-popping about this particular game offensively. But they were able to establish the run game a lot better. They averaged close to 5 yards a carry. That's great by Northwestern standards. And yeah, they just took good care of the ball. And I'm happy for Northwestern, man, with all the negative energy around that program right now because of what their previous head coach did. It feels good to not only win your first game of the year, but also simultaneously winning big and not even being not necessarily counted out, because Vegas did change it to where they were going to be favored to win, but to be 1 point favorite over UTEP baffles my mind. And I'm glad Northwestern came out. Definitely proved some people wrong here tonight. You absolutely love to see it.